So welcome to this session, and thank you for coming to this session. Now, last night, John gave a very personal and passionate McTaggart lecture, which asked the question about whether or not we, the media, are disconnected from certain parts of our audience. And what I hope we will do in this session is actually answer that question and actually provide some really good solutions for all of us in this room to take away with us today and think, actually, do you know what? I can make sure we're not disconnected. I can make sure my company, I can make sure my sort of business is not disconnected from the audiences that we serve. But I'm being rude. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Ben, and I'm the controller of BBC Radio 1, Asian Network, and also a station that celebrated 15 years in broadcasting last week, a radio station called 1 Extra. If you've not heard of 1 Extra or don't know what we do, well, here's a sort of idea of what we get up to.
1 Extra.
I ain't got no manners, no. I ain't got no challenge, no. Man can send what he want. They ain't got no bangers, no. Banger, after banger, after banger, after banger, after banger, a combo banger. God flow patterns. That's not
1 Extra has supported us from the start.
You at the crossroad balance. You can't play this game with me like the console damage. Right? It's when it says oh, and I got the control damage.
Pump,
Yeah.
pump. What?
Is that some kind of invitation?
Banger, after banger, after banger, after banger, after banger, a combo banger. God flow patterns. That's not right.
What is it?
That's some I'll meet you at the crossroad balance. Man's gotta be up.
I'm just trying to make you understand, man, that you need to face reality.
You see what I do to these shows?
And here you can share with people like you and people like me.
Six is
Your
cool.
words, your sounds, your views.
We don't really get exposure like this, so it's good that they're coming down here and giving us all a chance to give us a platform, really.
Swag like a sim. Skank like
It's like everything I've ever heard on Radio 1 Extra.
I was in and out flats like gritty. Shot line ringing.
Your boy Charlie Sloth, the people's brilliant, the best looking fat guy in the universe.
Flats like gritty. Shot line ringing. Anti man like thingy. Can't say names, but that guy really. Nino Brown, New Jack, my city.
You broke our economies, you broke our people. Therefore, we need to find a way to rebuild ourselves.
You got some very powerful stuff there.
UK grind. Stop trapping. What? The man started rapping. What? How ironic, I still got a mouth for the raps like Dizzy.
Live on 1 Extra.
Banger. After banger. After banger. After banger. After banger. A combo banger.
That's hopefully woken you up a little bit. Got the blood pumping. So what is a radio guy doing at a TV festival? Well, it's very simple. You just watched a radio station. And about 5 years ago, Radio 1 and 1 Extra decided that we needed to do some research because people were still coming to us. We were still reaching millions of people a week, but they were spending less time with us. And we wanted to find out what they were doing with their time. And what a surprise. It was watching YouTube. So we decided to go fish where the fish were. And we decided that we needed to film some of our best content, our interviews, our live performances, some of our silly things that we did, and put those films up. Because if our audience were going and spending time with YouTube, they were going onto a different platform, we could do two things, hopefully. One, we could get those people who stumble across our content and get them to seek out the radio station. So that was great. It was almost like marketing. And the other thing was, well, if it was our audience that were going away from the radio because they just wanted to watch their phone, then why not spend more time with the brand somewhere else? And that relationship between old media and new media is really good. It helps each other. In very simplistic terms, what we've seen over the last 5 years is old traditional media, brilliant at creating great content, but not very good at distributing it in new ways. And what you've had is the tech companies, brilliant at distributing content in new ways to new audiences, but trying to find its feet on finding new content. And this sort of joining together, this converged evolution, means we're in the middle of an amazing revolution when it comes to finding new talent, people with new ideas, people with new stories to tell, in new ways. And that working together, I think, is part of the answer to Jon Snow's question last night. But I'm being rude. I haven't introduced our guests. We're very privileged to have Humza, who is a YouTube star. 8 years ago, he was sitting in his bedroom and decided to start making YouTube videos. Now that journey over 8 years from his bedroom to being on a stage at a television festival has meant that he's got under his belt millions of YouTube views, a commission from BBC Three, and a series from BBC Three called Coconut. We'll see a bit more of that. And also, Oona. Now, Oona spent most of her life dedicated to the issue of diversity and inclusion. She's done that in London with Channel 4, and she's now doing it in California with Google and YouTube. Oh, and there was a little bit of life in politics as well, which we might come to. But those people on stage will, I hope, hopefully, answer those questions that we got asked last night and give you some really good insights in how you can make sure that your company and your area of expertise becomes more diverse. Because the more diverse we get, the better stories, the more authentic we get with our audience, and the better mirror we hold up to society to reflect all elements of it. But let's test how you are in terms of the media landscape at the moment. You thought you were coming here just to sit in a sort of slightly darkened room, let the blood sugar levels kind of even out, let the nausea and vomiting feelings sort of subside. No. You have a paddle on your, like a ping pong bat on your chair, and this is the time to prove how well you know the current media landscape, okay? You up for this? Okay, there's 2 people over here that are up for it. Anyone else up for it? Yes. Great. Now, this is going to be really difficult for me, okay? I'll be honest. There's 2 bright lights shining in my eyes, and I'm colorblind. So I'm not sure whether you're going to be absolute experts in this or completely disastrous. So let's just be nice and kind to each other and say you're going to be experts in it, okay? But let's crack on with this and see. You two, you're free. You don't need to be tested in front of the audience, okay? That's going to come next, okay? All right, so you can relax for a little bit. But let's start with the quiz. So, are you ready? First question. Now then. What subject did Sesame Street address by welcoming their newest Muppet, Julia? Was it autism or blindness? Again, I can't see with the lights. It's brilliant. Fundamental question. Are you colorblind? They're very shaded and similar. Right. It is, of course, autism. Give yourself a pat on the back if you got that right. Okay? I love that. Yes, I'm brilliant. I'm brilliant. Right, okay, wait for some of the other questions. Let's see how you keep doing. All right, then. So the second question. Here's the question. Okay? I think... Madam at the back, yeah, you're okay. You've got this one as well. Of course it was kids. And then, of course, the whole hoo-ha as well of sort of, was that the nanny? No, it was his wife. And general sexism and perceptions were called into question. But also, did you know, this got 24 million views worldwide, this clip. It was front page news. But the great thing about creativity in our modern age is that a load of people did spoofs of it. And I don't know whether you saw the spoof by the Australian pair who did it as if, look, if a woman had been doing this interview, she'd have been able to do the ironing, as well as doing the interview, as well as looking after the kids, as well as getting breakfast ready. That got 20 million views. How fantastic is that? Okay, here we go, next one. About 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, Grimmy at Radio 1, I was having a chat with him and he suddenly stopped and he went, oh, I've got to show you something, by the way. I've got to show you something. Look at this. Got his phone out. And I've never seen him so excited. He was like a small kid because he'd got one of these dancing on his shoulder. And he's like, look, isn't it funny? And I'm like going, I really am getting old, aren't I? Okay, the question then, let's see. Is it Snapchat or Instagram that you'd be able to use the hot dog filter on? Look at that, straight up there. Yep, it is indeed Snapchat. Well done. All right. You're feeling good about life now, aren't you? You're feeling quite good. You know, nothing more than from this session of feeling a good sense of well-being. Okay, you've probably seen that clip, but what is it called? Is it called Classroom Instruments, or is it Wheel of Musical Impressions? What do you reckon? Yes, it is indeed. Classroom Instruments. Well done, Gray. Oh, you're laughing away. You're loving this. Yes, I'm so good at this. Okay, here we go. So, you know this. Surely you know this. Is it grey or is it red? You must know this. Where have you been? Have you been in a coma if you haven't heard this song? It is, of course, Despacito. Okay, it's now the most streamed song on the internet. Biggest video on YouTube now, music video. Anyone going to get this wrong? It is, of course, James Corden. See, I told you, just feel good about yourself. Now then, this one, no paddles needed. Can you name these YouTube stars? Okay, let's go around with the cap top. Very good. Next one. Dan and Phil, yeah, absolutely. They're going to be doing a session later on, I think after this one, at about 11 o'clock, if you want to see Dan and Phil. Obviously, they did some work with Radio 1, and then they were given the offer of going around and doing a theatre tour around the world, and we haven't seen them since. I was in LA in May, and I was in a taxi, and it stopped at some lights, and I looked to the side, and there was a theatre. And on the side of the theatre was some graffiti, and it said, "I love Dan and Phil." I was like, oh, well, they've been here then. So they're still going around the world making much more money than they could have ever earned at Radio 1 and having a great time. But if you fancy meeting them, 11 o'clock later on. Next one? Yeah, well done. And the fourth one. Oh, you're good. That's why you didn't go to Charlotte's thing, isn't it? You go, yeah, I want to go this one. Okay then, so here's a question though. How many subscribers have they got between them? The population of a small country. Any ideas? 25 mil we have. Higher? Lower? Higher. We're going... I love that people from Google are actually having a go at this. Going, like, you should know this. Okay, here we go. It is 32 million. Wouldn't you like that for your company, your talent? That would be great, wouldn't it? 32 million people engaged with those talent, engaged with what they've got to say about the world, the fun and the stories that they have. So, here we go. Time to get down to having a bit of a conversation. Hopefully you'll find it useful. We'll have some questions from you at the end, so don't think that's the end of your involvement, okay? And what we'll do is we'll get a mic so that we can all hear you as well at the end. But we'll just have a bit of a conversation first, and then we'll come to you near the end, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Oh. So, Humza, take us back to 8 years ago and sitting in your bedroom.
Yeah, so I started making videos in my bedroom. Not those kind of videos, just well, a few. It was kind of weird. It was, when I was young, I realized at a very early age that I was genuinely rubbish at everything. And the only thing that I was good at was just making people laugh, making a fool out of myself. So it was just something that I always wanted to do. And, you know, I did the whole going to drama school. I think I did performing arts for like 5-6 years. One of my teachers was Tom Hardy. I did everything. But afterwards, and I don't want to play the race card, especially so quickly at like 9:45 in the morning, but it's been a long night. But I just realized that, you know, the facts are I'm brown, I'm Pakistani, and I'm a Muslim. So I knew that it just would be harder for me. And I didn't want to, I always say this, I don't want to be like stereotyped in those stereotypical roles all the time, you know, like always playing like terrorist number 2, you know? Just one line and that's it, you know? I wanted more than that, you know? I wanted, you know, at least terrorist number 1 because it's more money,
More lines.
And yeah, and then I just started YouTube and...
So is that the beauty of YouTube? Because I remember in the early days of YouTube, the strapline was broadcast yourself.
Yeah.
So was that the appeal for you?
I think with YouTube, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know where to start after drama school, and I was like, I don't know, I just wanted to do something where I could be creative and do my own content and just have fun with it. And my actual goal was to like get someone's attention, like a casting director or an agent, or you know, even someone who could point me in the right direction. But what I didn't know was that I would get a fan base from it, and my brand would get bigger, and yeah, it's been amazing.
Okay, well, let's see a clip of what you did from your bedroom in those early days.
Oh no. I started YouTube about 5-6 years ago. After drama school, I was thinking I don't want to end up being stereotyped into, you know, playing terrorist number 2, you know, one line, Allahu Akbar, and that's it, and I'm blown up, no sequel, nothing. I wanted to make my own characters, I wanted to make my own stories, I wanted to be creative in my own way, and I started, I think my first main series was Diary of a Bad Man. Let me get straight to the point, yeah?
There we go. So last night we had Jon Snow saying didn't want media to be disconnected from certain audiences. So did you feel disconnected from mainstream media? Was that one of the reasons that you decided to start your own videos?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously diversity, you know, is still an issue. We all know that. It is getting better though, and I definitely, like, I've met a lot of cool people, especially, I mean, doing a lot of stuff with BBC, and I've met some really cool people who really get it and are trying to change things up. But I think that when I was younger, I think it did get to me a little bit because I felt like I was highlighted in like drama school. I was the only coloured person there, and it was just really hard because I was like from South London. My background was completely different, my education was different, and I was stuck in a room full of, you know, people who were very different to me, and I knew that I just had to work harder, and it is what it is. And I remember when I first started, and I'm not gonna say the channel or whatever, but I remember meeting kind of two commissioners. And we sat down, and they basically said, "Oh, like, you know, we've been looking at your YouTube stuff, and we've just realised that you know, you have more views on your channel than ours." And they were like, "How do you do it? You know, what's the secret? Like, you know, what's your, you know, how did you start and achieve this?" And by the end of it, I realised that I got nothing from that meeting, and I was a bit disheartened. I was like, I've just showed you that I've not spent a penny, and I've got 81 million views on my channel by myself, you know, doing my own thing. I didn't have a cameraman. I had the camera stand, and I put a camera on, and I pressed record, and I quickly ran in front, and I acted. That was my cameraman. I didn't have no sound. I just had one little fluffy, crappy mic that I bought from eBay that doesn't really work, but I put it on top of the camera anyway, just to, you know, for myself, self-esteem. Like it does work. You know, I didn't have any of that, but I was just disheartened because I was like, I've done all of this work and I'm still not getting an opportunity. So then I kind of said, you know what, until things change, I'm just going to do what I do, and hopefully people, you know, will love my content, and I'm very lucky and fortunate that things panned out in the end.
Well, they did, and we'll come to that in a second. But just, it must have been really heartening, that sort of first 24 hours when you've talked to your fluffy little mic from eBay on the top of the camera, and some people have actually liked it. Yeah, you know, it was crazy. I remember the video that I put out, like in 24 hours, I got like 5,000 new views, like, which was obviously, is crap now. But back then I was like, genuinely thought I was like Tom Cruise. And just really arrogant, just walking around my house topless, everything, I didn't care. I was about that life. But, and then, yeah. Did you skid on your socks like Risky Business? 100,000,000%, trust me. Good. Okay. My mum didn't like it, she elbowed me in my back, but that's another story anyway. I don't want to get into that, or, you know, she might get arrested. But,
Yeah, no, it was really cool. And I just remember, like, I went on holiday and I came back and I said to my brother, oh, you know, so, you know, is it 6,000 now? Is it 7,000? And he was like, no, it's 20,000. I was like, what? Even I was shocked. And then the next day it was like 35,000 views. Then it was like, it jumped to like 50 to 80. And then I thought, okay, let me do another video. So I did another video and it started getting hundreds of thousands of views. And then I was like, okay, let me do one more, definitely. I did one more and started getting millions of views straight away, like I think within the first day or two.
That's not
and,
normal, though.
Yeah,
That's not normal.
It was because of the looks mainly, but why are you laughing? I didn't understand why you. But yeah, no, it was super cool, and it was amazing to know that, you know what, like, you know, hard work does really pay off, because I remember there would be times where all my friends would get together at my house and there would be, you know, having a party downstairs with pizza and, well, just mainly pizza to be fair, but, you know, and I would be upstairs and I'd be learning how to edit, and I'd be learning, because I had to do everything myself. I just knew I had to work harder than anyone else. I had to edit, I direct my stuff, I write my stuff, I produce my own stuff, I'm the main character in all of my stuff. Obviously. But yeah, I had to work hard, and now it's paid off, so I'm really happy.
Absolutely. Well, we'll come to that, as I said, in a second. But Oona, presumably, that's something that appealed to you, to up your family from London and go move to California, with stories like that?
Yeah, it's just the sunshine.
Is that it? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, to me, YouTube, coming from a traditional, well, I say traditional broadcaster, Channel 4 is pretty cool, right? But still, it's, you know, linear, traditional TV. And to me, YouTube is the future of broadcasting because of people like Humza. You can see from that story that Humza was able to get those millions of views also, because we were talking about this a bit yesterday, also because you were providing content for people who simply did not ever see themselves reflected. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean, you know, like the sort of young Muslim youth round Mile End in it, but, you know, younger British people who didn't see that. But we were also talking about, and this is a problem for places, has been a problem for Channel 4 and other broadcasters, like you would go in to see commissioners and they're like, oh, we've got the Muslim show. Right. You know, and
ticked.
Yeah, and that is the issue with diversity in traditional broadcast, because the resources are so finite. Right. And because there is a lack of diversity, you put those two things together and it means gatekeepers just have, i.e. commissioners, disproportionate power and a huge amount of unconscious bias. They're literally like, and it's not just, you know, we've got the Muslim one, it'll be like, oh, we've got the female director, or we've got the black this, we've got, you know, it's just
And do you still
so
think
wrong.
That is the case amongst the gatekeepers?
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's much less, but it absolutely, I mean, I know, because I've sat in those conversations, and that is how commissioners sometimes have to think. You know, but it never happens the other way around. You know, you never have a commissioner going, we've got the white man. I mean, it just doesn't happen the other way around. So it's just something that diverse content creators or talent, you know, have to think about. And that's why, that is the beauty of YouTube. It doesn't usually happen like it did to you. That was extraordinary. But clearly it is possible to broadcast yourself and to jump those gatekeepers. And that's an extraordinary act in democracy, really, if you like, in terms of content creation.
Absolutely. And YouTube love you so much, they've given you a free jacket, I noticed.
It's free. That's why I'm wearing it.
That's very, very nice indeed. But that democracy, or that ability to get to your audience without a gatekeeper in the way, gives you quite a lot of power when you presumably do go to a commissioner, because you've got in your back pocket an audience ready-made.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, a lot of my, you know, works, you know, they're like tasters, basically. It shows my work and what I'm capable of. And yeah, no, I completely agree with that, definitely, 100%.
Well, it worked, because you've got a commission and from BBC Three. Let's have a look at Coconut.
Oh,
say, can't you see? I am Ahmed Armstrong, gentleman documentarian. This is so Brexit.
How would I describe Ahmed Armstrong? What?
Pakistani Noel Edmonds mixed with Satan.
Yeah, he's nice. No, he isn't.
Some people have said to me, oh, you know, you're only with Ahmed for his fame and fortune, loser.
This is it.
What the bloody shit is Tommy Khan? Tommy Khan is the future.
I don't know what just came out of your mouth. It sure as shit wasn't halal.
I will whip you like savage. Come here.
I think you should at least attempt to do some current, hard-hitting reporting. You have it in you, I know you do.
I know, I feel it inside of me. Feel it.
So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. So what's the difference, and don't say the quality of the microphone, between working with a traditional broadcaster and yourself?
I think, I mean, obviously, you know, TV is, you know, very different. I think, you know, with YouTube, it's kind of like, think of an idea, the next day you're filming, there's no kind of anyone to say, oh, we don't like this, or oh no, take this out, or anything like that. I just had full control. Whereas in TV, obviously there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but in a way, I liked it so much because it just had structure, as we were talking about yesterday. It had structure, and it just had loads of people who know what they're doing in different areas, and it just makes the product better. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely differences, and there's definitely pros and cons, but I really had fun filming that. It was definitely one of the best experiences for me so far, so I was very honoured and privileged to have that opportunity.
But if you've got an audience,
yeah,
you're already in a relationship with quite a lot of people that like your material. Why do you need to go to a traditional TV broadcaster?
I mean, it's always been my dream. I mean, since I was a little kid, like that was you know, what I've always wanted, and you know, YouTube helped me, you know, finally achieve that. And you know, I think with TV, you have to understand, like, there's a different market there. You know, I know that I have, you know, and I'm very thankful to have loads of, you know, fans, you know, with Asian background, just even the younger generation. I've got such a big fan base there, but you know, TV would allow me to grow my brand and to, you know, put me out there to others, and also it's BBC, isn't it?
Is the right answer. Oona, the difference between working for an organisation like Channel 4 and working for an organisation like Google, what are your, forget about the cultural differences of, you know, America and the UK, but how about in terms of culturally as a mindset?
There is the thing, genuinely, that, I mean, I moved to YouTube's headquarters. Well, no, I didn't move to their headquarters. I don't live in their headquarters, but I moved to California, which turns out to be much colder than it sounds, could I just say, just in case anyone, I'm quite disappointed on that front. But anyway, moved there about 9 months ago, and there is the thing that genuinely, I could not understand what they said for about 6 months. I mean, I just couldn't. I thought we spoke the same language. It's that thing, you know, and you go there and they're talking about tentpole moments and, oh, I don't know, just loads of language that you're like, what is that? And so there's that. I didn't understand them. But now I'd say the biggest difference, and sorry to state the obvious, by the way, well done everyone for coming this morning. Can I just...
Yeah, I thought no one would come.
I know, we were sitting here going...
We were in the party last night, I was like, no one's coming.
But yeah, so it doesn't matter how much we drink. That was the thought process last night. And then you all started coming in the door. We were like, that's so nice. Yeah. But anyway, so the difference is, and I was saying, sorry to state the obvious, maybe because my brain is exploding, the difference is the difference, right? That is the I can't believe how different YouTube is to Channel 4. It's, you know, traditional linear TV just almost has nothing whatsoever to do with what YouTube is as a global platform. And as you were saying, there are pros and cons, and I think there's extraordinary they are very, very complementary. Which is why YouTube is here sponsoring the International TV Festival, because they do go together really well. But I am still struck and surprised by quite how different it is. I thought I was going from broadcaster to broadcasting. It's kind of the same, and actually it's just totally not. So yeah, I managed to just kind of jump that ship and now realise I'm at sea, but in the most interesting way, with with a new generation of broadcasters, really. Which
well, let's just have a look at some of that new generation of broadcasters that broadcast on YouTube. In that video, you see a great deal of diversity, not only from the people, but also the subjects that are covered.
Yeah.
Do you think actually this idea of being a global village and a global broadcaster allows you to then explore diversity in new, richer ways?
I think clearly you are able to sort of aggregate audiences on a global platform to allow people to make money out of content that they wouldn't have previously. What virtually all those people have in common, though, is that they didn't set out to make money. And it is really around passion and authenticity that get you the views that then allow you to be in a position where traditional broadcasters will come knocking on your door. So, yeah, definitely there is that thing of a global village and of being able to aggregate interests which traditional broadcast will say, that's niche. You hear that all the time, that's niche. Or, you know, those people there, diverse content creators, are a risk. And essentially what YouTube's model does is enable those people to demonstrate actually they do have value, their audience has value, they can monetize content and look at the talent. So, yeah, it's great, isn't it? Glad they invented YouTube.
One of the things you talked about there is passion. And I think one of the things that we've certainly been exploring at Radio 1 and One Extra and Asian Network is about making sure you do find that next generation of presenters who have a passion, who have that energy. One of the things that we've done is, for our intern scheme, is make sure that you don't need to apply with an application form or with a CV, but that you actually apply with some content that you've made. And you demonstrate that passion, you demonstrate that ability to get off the sofa, and when all your friends are eating pizza downstairs, to actually go upstairs and go, well, do you know what, actually I'm not partying because I want to learn about this bit of software or what have you. And I think that has given us certainly a much more diverse range of people. It's, you know, I'm talking to you as someone who failed my A-level spectacularly, so I got 2 E's, an N, and an F.
Wow.
The N. That's impressive.
I got thanks for trying. I didn't even get no letters.
The N is nearly.
Okay.
How patronising is that?
Or maybe no.
Just like, no. Yeah. Next. But for me, that is absolutely about getting a more diverse group of people that isn't reliant on an education system that sort of says, right, you've got to pass these grades, you've got to get this sort of experience. So that's certainly something that I'm very passionate about. And the thing that's come through is, yes, you might have a passion for making cupcakes, or you might have a passion for making your friends laugh. But there's also, with this generation, I think, more than ever, a passion for being a force for good. Is that something that you've seen amongst your friends, Humza?
My friends are really bad.
I was going to say no.
Okay. All right, then.
They're from South London, so self-explanatory. But yeah, no, I mean, with myself, it was something that I always had in the back of my mind. I didn't want to actually create just pointless comedy. I wanted there to be a reason behind it. And I mean, a lot of the reason what drives me is, and I say this in a lot of my talks, but you know, life is so tough sometimes. Like, it's genuinely really tough. And like, we all go through so much, like whether it's, you know, family issues or relationships or losing the one you love or whatever it is. And a lot of people feel sad and down, and some people even, you know, fall into depression and mental health and whatnot. But this is how I see it. If I can make one joke, and let's just say I'm doing stand-up, I make one joke and one person in the audience laughs. Now, it doesn't matter how much pain that person has felt or is feeling at that moment of time, but when I say that joke and they're laughing, for those 10 seconds, they forget everything. And I think that's the most beautiful thing you can do for another human being, and that's why I do comedy.
Good stuff. Well, let's talk about...
And for this.
And for the freebies. Yeah.
It's free.
Hand in hand. But you're an ambassador for Creators for Change, aren't you? So does that mean you go around with a tray of Ferrero Rocher? What does it mean?
No, I wish. That would be really cool. No, it was actually one of the best things that actually happened to me. I mean, I think it started at the beginning, well, the end of last year. And yeah, I became an ambassador. And they saw the work that I was doing. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff with knife crime. My cousin, he got stabbed 4 or 5 times. Both of his lungs were punctured, and he survived somehow. And then I worked with the police, and I wanted to do that. I've done stuff with mental health. I've done loads of charity work. I've always wanted to kind of go out of my way to, with my, you know, little bit of fame, I just want to, you know, try my best to make a difference. And then I started doing a lot of stuff with radicalization. Young kids were, you know, being kind of groomed on social media. And a lot of people, you know, Muslims weren't really stepping up because it's such a sensitive issue. And then what happened was I don't know if anyone remember, I think it was about 2-3 years ago now, the story with the 3 girls in East London that became jihadi brides. And I actually know one of the girls, like personally, well, I know her brother. So when that happened, it was kind of like, it was too close to home. And I realized that if it could happen to them, and they were just a normal, beautiful, average family, if it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. And no one was really doing anything about it because everyone was scared. And, you know, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a puppet or a propaganda tool. But I had to kind of take a stand and say, you know what, while, you know, if God has blessed me with this so-called fame, then I need to kind of make a positive difference. And since then, you know, I made sure that I'd go out of my way to do better. And me and the police, I made a YouTube video called I'm a Muslim, Not a Terrorist. And then we toured, I think we did over, in a year, I think I did 130 shows, and we performed to over 80,000 kids. And I was literally in Scotland Yard, and they gave me the certificate thing. It was free as well. And they actually said that the amount of young girls that are going off now to become jihadi brides is actually like practically like 0. And I'm not saying that was because of me, but knowing that I went out of my way for a year to help young people, even if I had 1% to do with that, just 1%, then I know I've done my part.
Well, let's have a look at that.
Hey friends! What's up, family?
Morning, guys! Let me get straight to the point, yeah?
Meet the YouTube Creators for Change. 39 global creators representing 9 countries. We're more than just style vloggers and comedians. We're using our voices for social change. Inspired by hope, empowered by YouTube, we speak our truth against intolerance, hate, and extremism.
I know that it's scary, but we have to have these hard conversations because that's the only way that people are going to learn and grow. And the first place that it starts is in your community.
We're sharing our culture, representing our communities, and opening minds one video at a time.
The Muslim women scene right now is happen, this much like innovation and activism taking place amongst Muslim women right now, that's something that we should absolutely empower and support every possible way that we can.
So we can create allies and promote our messages of positivity.
About a year ago, I was working on a project to help young kids stay away from terrorism. YouTube and Google together signed me as their ambassador. I hope that that will inspire others, because that was probably one of the best things that has ever happened to me, and it's been amazing.
We're stepping out of the screen to get involved and connecting with a global audience millions strong.
Me being a Pakistani Muslim myself, I can relate to it quite a lot, so the stuff he says, it's personal as well.
Every one of us has a voice. How will you use yours?
So Oona, tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you hope YouTube will get from cashing in, or not cashing in, that sounds quite cynical, but in terms of engaging with those young people who have that passion to be a force for change.
Well, you know, it's just really extraordinary when you think about, if you add up all those content creators and their audience and their fan base, it is amazing being able, YouTube as a platform, being able to bring those people together and amplify your voices. I mean, that was the purpose of it. And so YouTube is essentially using the influence that it has to promote those people that we feel promote our values. I mean, most people here, presumably, don't associate YouTube necessarily with having any values, right? You may be thinking just cat videos, which is a fair enough thing to think, but it's actually quite profound when you understand how the relationship between young people and media consumption has changed just dramatically in not even the last 10 years, the last 3 years, even if you look at the shift onto mobile, if you look at the way media is being consumed, YouTube is that future, and we want to make sure that future has values attached as well. And so that's one of the reasons I'm there, because I think that's really important when you look at how do we deal with hate speech, for instance, on the internet? Well, never mind on the internet. I mean, you can look around the world and see that it's not just on the internet, but what can the internet do to lessen rather than increase the sort of tensions that we've seen? And so the purpose of Creators for Change is to amplify those voices for good.
But presumably, you said the future is YouTube. Presumably, though, you're not advocating that YouTube's going to take over the world and destroy traditional TV.
Oh, of course I am.
Okay.
No.
No. Because surely there's a beautiful symbiotic relationship that can be had.
Oh, completely. And you only have to look at, I mean, there was a clip, wasn't there, of James Corden and Carpool Karaoke. I mean, that's a fantastic example of how you've got, you know, traditional TV on the one hand coming together with a global platform and audience to get more eyeballs on that content than ever would have been got through traditional channels. So it's win-win, and it's not as though the audience is shrinking. There's enough to go round for both YouTube and all sorts of content, whether you're talking about broadcasters, networks, there's no problem with the audience shrinking.
Absolutely. So in answering Jon Snow's question of making sure that we don't have a disconnect with audiences, presumably that relationship between a platform that doesn't have gatekeepers, where emotions and stories can just rise up and find an audience, working with traditional media, that hopefully will answer that question from Jon Snow last night.
I think it's part of the answer, without a shadow of a doubt. When you look at what YouTube as a platform enables people to do, it serves part, it answers part of the problem.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to be, you know, simplistic and pretend that it deals with the whole problem, because I think what Jon Snow was talking about yesterday is, you know, is so symptomatic of a sort of malaise across not just British society, whether it's Brexit, whether it's Trump, etc. You can't just say, oh, you know, go online and it'll be sorted out. What an online platform like YouTube provides in a positive sense is also a problem as well. We know that, we recognise that. In other words, if anyone can put content there, then we have to think about the negative side of that as well. And believe me, that takes up a huge amount of our time. But we also recognise the positive side is so positive and is so empowering in a way. I mean, I remember like working in Channel 4, Idris Elba went in to see Channel 4 commissioners, and I love God bless Channel 4, right? But Channel 4 commissioners said to him, no, I'm sorry, you're a bit niche, right? And he's not niche. He's like a global superstar now, but the point is that YouTube allows people to go, you know what, don't just tell me I'm niche, let me show you what I am. And that is invaluable.
Cool. Okay. So I said that you would be involved again. So this is your chance to ask us questions, if you'd like to, just to get you thinking and to get you sort of do that nervous bum shuffle in your seat, thinking, oh, blimey, the lights are going to go up, aren't they? There they go. I'll ask you quickly while people are thinking about their questions. And if you've got a question, put your hand up and a microphone will find its way to you. Last thing you watched from traditional TV provider, Humza?
Game of Thrones, that's a bit obvious, isn't it? But I'd say Game of Thrones is kind of, I'm getting into that now, yeah.
Okay, Oona?
I haven't managed that. It's really bad. As someone who's in TV.
There's dragons and stuff.
I know. I think that's what put me off, you know.
What?
I've got a thing, I'm racist towards
dragons. To dragons,
yeah. Anyway, so the last thing I watched, which is about as far from fresh new talent as you can get, is, what's it called? Big Little Lies, the HBO one. So that's like what Nicole Kidman and like really not fresh talent. But and then I also, the thing I watched the other night actually, which I loved, was, have you come across Jared Carmichael? Does everyone know him or no one knows him? If you don't know him, like, check him out. Very, very funny comedian. Again, HBO.
Okay, interesting. For me, my wife and I watched 13 Reasons, followed by Top of the Lake. And we were like, oh God, lifestyle. Life is just so down. So at the moment we are watching Quacks. If you haven't seen Quacks on the iPlayer, this lady has. We will talk about it later, but that is funny, and because there's a lot of very serious drama on at the moment. But that's the panel's TV, and hopefully now you've come up with a question or two. So questions, hands up. Who would like to ask a question? There we go. Tell us who you are first.
Oh, hello. My name is Alejandra. I'm a screenwriting student here in Napier. My question comes to, because most of the YouTubers that even were shown in that video were people who stand up in front of the camera and say something and, you know, have a sort of discourse. So my question is, where is the space in YouTube for fiction? You know, for maybe content writers like me who don't know how to get started. And how do you get noticed by the audience and by YouTube itself?
I think Humza is an answer to that in a way, because you are a scriptwriter.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty with YouTube. I mean, there's so many, it's not just, I mean, obviously that was a lot of, you know, YouTubers who are, you know, trying to make a positive change, and obviously with Creators for Change, you know, we've been allowed to speak up and have a voice and have that platform. But I mean, you know, with my stuff, I actually write my own. I do different stuff. I don't vlog. I don't have a cat. I actually write a script. Like right now, I'm working on this show called Bad Man. So it's about a young Muslim young man growing up in London, and you know, there's a lot of issues where it comes by peer pressure, you know, within Asian, families, drug abuse, relationships, gang violence, it's like, I think I've done like 8 episodes now, and I've been putting it out there, and I know I'm not getting any money for it or anything, but I know that I'm creating something different on YouTube, and you know, people are watching it and people are liking it. And I think also when I go to TV channels, they can watch that and they can understand that that's, you know, their taste is that that's a part of my work. So I definitely think that YouTube, you know, there is definitely space for you creating your own content and then being able to show that content, you know, to others and TV channels and show them your work. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I mean, you're right that it is harder. You're definitely right. It is harder, I would say, which is again why you, you know, it's amazing how you were able to buck that trend. So it's harder to produce content if you're doing scripted. Obviously, it is, because clearly it's just harder to produce that the show, as opposed to just have a chat into a microphone. That it's clearly harder. And I would also say it is worth, which you will have already done, but it is worth looking at what the traditional TV and other broadcasters provide in terms of development for those quite specific, like screenwriting skills. Obviously, more and more, certainly in America, YouTube is doing that because there's content development. But on the whole, you're right. It's a space where it's harder to break into. Not at all impossible, but harder.
Okay. Anything else? Question there? Get the microphone across to this gentleman. There we go. Pass the mic along. Hello, sir.
I'm Junior. I work at the BBC at the moment in TV. I was just wondering, from like a young person's point of view, I remember John saying yesterday that the industry's quite cynical, as we all know. As you're like on the come up, what's like your advice in terms of like young creatives, like trying to find like stability in terms of life whilst trying to pursue like your creative endeavours?
Wow, stability in terms of life. Now you're freaking me out.
Most adults haven't worked. I just want to let you know.
Just to like break it down, I'd say before I was working at the BBC, I was working at I was project managing at like a young people's like theatre/art centre. So you'll have like quite a lot of like young people who are trying to kind of like come up, but then at the same time they'll be talking to you. They'll be like, "Oh, I don't have a car. I'm living at my parents," or "I'm back and forth," kind of thing. So when they're talking to you, I think there's only so much I can kind of say. I can only give my story and how I've kind of worked up to the point that I'm at now, but just like in general, I find that even as much as where you think like you have it, you're always like one contract away from being back.
I think this is one of the hardest issues around this industry. I mean, certainly at Channel 4, it's just so hard to break into this industry unless you happen to have a home in central London, so you're around where it is. I mean, God help you, do you know what I mean? If you're in Skegness and you want to break into the industry, how are you going to do that? And it's what we decided after, I mean, I worked with the Creative Diversity Network, which is all the British broadcasters, it's the effort they make around diversity. And one of the biggest issues we had is simply the hand-to-mouth nature of this industry makes it even harder than any other industry if you're trying to get more diversity into it. And when I say more diversity, you know, people often, they think black people in wheelchairs is about as much as they can think. And that's a good start. It's definitely a good start. But, you know, I mean, social mobility and socioeconomic background, if you dealt with the class issue, you know, you would deal with many other elements, most other elements, I think, in my view. And so what you're talking about, I mean, the basic fact of how is a young person going to overcome that very hand-to-mouth existence without the bank of mum and dad?
Yeah.
Because that's basically how you do it, isn't it? It's the bank of mum and dad. And if you haven't got that, the practical advice, I would say, I mean, it's something I should have done in politics and I never did, is you have to go out and you have to make people your mentors. You have to make them, you have to demonstrate your talent, but then you have to make them be the people that are going to look out for you and be championing you. And it's a really easy thing to say. I can say it now. Even after all these years, I still don't do it. But I see the people that do manage to survive that hand-to-mouth existence, it's usually because they've got someone looking out for them. And so my point is, people that haven't got the bank of mum and dad have to create those structures themselves. And if you just have that in your mind and you go, someone said to me, you need to identify 5 people and you go to them and you say, will you be my mentor? Will you help me? This is where I want to get to. And look, I do have a plan. You can't be helpless. You've got to make your own success. But part of that is identifying people and saying, you need to help me. And that's a skill that a lot of people don't have.
And I think there are more broadcasters that are realising that. Certainly that's when I talked about our intern scheme, I made sure that you have to be paid, and we have to be paid enough money to survive in central London. I was very lucky after I failed my A-levels and stuff. I was able, through my parents, to be able to go and knock on a door and become a T-boy and work for, I think it was 30 quid a week, because I had my parents who were able to back me up. But you know, if you hadn't got that, then I think it is really tough. And if an industry wants to be diverse, if it wants to get new young people in that can tell new stories in new ways, then it's going to have to do that. But there are some really good schemes out there, so look out for those. We're not going to be able to address the whole of the English class system in the last 30 seconds, unfortunately. One last quick question, and then I think we might have to call it a day.
I'll let all the hands go up. As soon as you say one last question, they all go up.
I think you were first.
Thank you. I'm very lucky to get in right at the end. My question's to Humza. So you've got this obviously incredibly successful channel, over 80 million views, complete creative freedom on your channel and control. You've outlined why you want to do TV, because it's a different market. But as your profile increases and as you get busier, and obviously you're doing these amazing kind of force for good things as well, and you're going to get more and more TV offers, etc., are you worried that it's going to impact on your commitment to your channel?
Yeah. No, just to be very honest, yeah, definitely, it does sometimes cross my mind, but it's kind of it's something where I realize that I can't, like, for me, YouTube has, you know, brought me to where I am now. And I feel a definite strong connection with YouTube and with my fans who I can just interact with very easily. And I think that's one of the best things about YouTube, that, you know, you have a fan base that you can just, you know, feed off, and they can kind of, you can take their criticisms and you can take their feedback, and you can, you know, become bigger. But at the same time, you know, my dream is always to make as much content and to make as many people laugh as possible. And if that means me working extra hard to be able to work with BBC or, you know, Channel 4 or ITV or whatever commissions will come after this in the next 5 minutes, you know, yeah. Why is everyone laughing again? I'm joking. No, but it's just something that I just have to kind of work around, and it's not impossible. It definitely isn't impossible. And you know, the bigger you get, you can, you know, start having a team behind you. And you know, I've got a great team. My manager Danny, he's like he also has a production company, Big Deal, and a lot of the content, like with the Coconut, his actual production company, they were the ones who actually made Coconut. So it was like in-house. So it was just like we were all working together, and at the same time, it was easier for me to manage both. So I would say it's definitely going to be harder, but it's my dream to carry on and progress, and it's not going to stop me, hopefully, unless I die from a dragon.
Okay, well, maybe let's leave it there then. What a way to leave it. Thank you very much indeed for coming along to the session today. Could you please thank our guests, Humza and Oona.